What is going on, Savages? So tonight, hope everyone's doing well. I'm a little tired, so you'll have to bear with me. Tonight, let's talk a little bit about Ravencoin because they've got some pretty significant things going on in the project, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. And I understand, and I realize that it's not necessarily something that I'm normally talking about on the channel as far as like the details of a project. This is more like a mining channel, but I do talk about projects and what they've got going on because I think it's important for folks to understand the ins and outs of what the project is trying to accomplish. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And as time goes on with Ravencoin development, they're getting closer and closer to the goal of becoming a true platform for issuing and managing assets, tokenized assets. So that's one of the things that they recently did, or they recently soft forked, and they enabled some pretty significant capabilities that are going to hopefully get them to a better point of accomplishing their roadmap objectives, although what they've actually done wasn't in their original roadmap because it was kind of added later due to Security and Exchange Commission, SEC rules, and some things that they saw that they might need to change in order to make the Ravencoin platform more compliant for security token offerings. So that is kind of like what this is going to be about. And look, you can easily get into really in depth and really deep dives. I'm not really going to do that. I want to kind of learn also, so I'm going to kind of skim the surface of what this is about. But I think that it's important to know, especially if you're trying to support the project like I have for a long time now, even though there's some controversy going on with the project with regards to hash power, centralization, and all that stuff. But that's all for a whole other video. So let's take a look at what they've got going on. So one of my all-time favorite projects is Ravencoin. I'm probably going to ramble a lot, so just be prepared. There's quite a bit of controversy, like I mentioned earlier, lately with ASICs and FPGAs on the network, and it's caused some division in the community, and I hope all that gets fixed soon, but all that is kind of for a whole other video. This video and this stream is about assets. So let's talk about assets. Many of you are no doubt familiar with the ERC20 Ethereum request for comments number 20 that allows the creation of smart contract token with transfer capabilities using the Ethereum network. And I've always kind of thought that smart contracts is a bad name. I think it should probably be called digital contracts. It would just make more sense. It seems like it leads a little bit of confusion calling them smart contracts. But anyway, it seems like it would make more sense. But anyway, Ravencoin launched, which launched in January of 2018, took this asset capability down to the protocol level and improved it in many ways as its primary function and purpose. That's what really sets Raven apart from other asset platforms, is that the assets are at the protocol level. Some additional features not available in Ethereum are things like messaging, voting, rewards and dividends. You could probably make those into a smart contract on Ethereum, but it's not at the protocol level. It's not as easy as it is on the Ravencoin platform. Raven had a fair launch. There was no pre-mine or ICO, although it was probably mined by several individuals up front, testing and whatnot. I don't know how long it was actually before it was announced. I think there was some time there. So, but it was no pre-mine, no ICO. There's no master nodes. There's no token sale. Basically, the only way that you could obtain Raven is through proof of work mining, which is how I found them. And it's just a clean project with a lot of community support. you know, it's a solid project for sure. Again, they do have a little bit of controversy lately with the centralization of hash power, but again, that's another video. All right, let's look at a little bit of what's going on with the market. They did get kind of hit today a little bit. You know, the market's kind of pulling back a little bit overall, but they are up above 3 cents. Let's see, what are they at? 340. They're usually at, I think they hover around 300, and I think the traders, and I'm talking about Satoshis here, the traders like to see, I think anything less than 300 is what they are kind of inclined to jump into if they are wanting to trade Raven. And again, you guys know this. None of this is like financial advice or anything. So I'm just talking about trading and what the traders would typically look at. They're going to look at the Satoshi value. And I think for Raven, one of the main things is if it's below 300, it's probably good to get into it. So yeah, so it's at 340 right now. So it's a little higher than I think most people like to get into it. Anyway, there are whale bots on Twitter that will let you know whenever huge amounts of Raven are transferred, and that has been picking up a little bit lately. I think the bot was actually broken for a while, so I actually made a comment about not seeing a lot of those huge transfers for a while, but they're back. So what that means normally is that there are ASIC farms or large FPGA farms that are mining Raven and dumping it every night to pay their bills, or maybe not every night, but every couple of nights. It looks like they're going in 3 million Raven increments right now, something like that. So it's happening again, but again, that's a whole nother story. All right, let's talk about some assets and stuff. I keep going back to that because it's important, because that's like the mining aspect of this whole thing, right? It's frustrating for me, to be honest. Anyway, all right, so let's get back to this. So that's just a little quick market and stats and stuff like that. You know, like I stated earlier, the master plan for Ravencoin is to become the platform for asset creation and management, and improves on the Ethereum ERC20 method in several ways. Now, some of these articles are old, like this one was December 19th from 2018. Tron Black, he's like the lead dev for Ravencoin. You know, some of this stuff is a little old, but it only proves that, you know, this has kind of been their goal all along, is to become this type of platform. For example, as far as being better than an ERC20, for example, on Ravencoin, you can create an asset in just a few minutes without any coding experience at all. You don't have any skill, you don't need any skills to code. You can do it from within the Qt desktop wallet. Real simple. Ethereum was not designed or built to be an asset issuance platform like Ravencoin was. While assets can be issued as smart contracts on Ethereum, like I said earlier, there's a lot of drawbacks, such as name uniqueness. For example, you know, you can create multiple assets on the on the Ethereum network that all have the same name, and it can lead to a huge amount of confusion. So on the Ravencoin network, you can't create duplicate asset names because it's all on the protocol level, and they exist as basically as an object, as a token, as an asset on the network. So they cannot have duplicate names, and that actually led to some, you know, people remember the old days of web address squatting. You know, people registered asset names that they thought people were going to want to register and buy. You know, it was happening there whenever assets were first enabled. I think at the end of 2018, you saw some people doing that, and then they would register that asset name, and then they would try to sell it to the person that really owns it, or not really owns it, but you know, that they are trying to squat it from, right, in order to make a little bit of money. So anyway, so you see that happening here as well, because you can't have duplicate names, just like you can't have duplicate web page addresses. So some other things that Ravencoin has that Ethereum doesn't is they have messaging system, and that's used to communicate with asset holders. This can be combined with another feature of Ravencoin, which is voting, which all this kind of plays into the whole SEC compliancy issue, or security token offering compliancy, right? All this kind of goes hand in hand with that. So token holders can actually vote using vote tokens and voice their opinion into all sorts of project aspects. A good example is if the tokens held were issued for, say, a rental property, and that rental property needed some, and a lot of people owned the rental property, right? They owned the tokens that are associated with that rental property on the Ravencoin network. And let's say that they needed, the rental property needed some upgrades, right? Then the token holders, they might be spread out all over the world. And those token holders wouldn't be able to possibly, cast a vote, a legitimate vote on how to upgrade the property or how to spend the funds, the operating expenses and all that stuff that's associated with this rental property that they all technically own, right? So that's just one way that voting could be used. And all this plays into the rewards and dividends capability also, where the token or asset holders can receive rewards for holding a token. In the rental property example, if there was profit gained from the rental property, like let's say that the rental property actually made money, then that profit could be distributed evenly across all the token holders based on their ownership percentage. So at this point, the critical and deep thinkers out there are hearing all this and are applying it to all sorts of use cases. Now, I'm not that deep of a thinker, but I do have a couple of scenarios where this would make sense to use this. And there are literally an infinite amount if you start applying it to all aspects of the industries, right? The possibilities are pretty much endless. And are people already creating these restricted assets and tags, even though this was really recent that they soft forked to enable them? I think it took, honestly, and this goes back to the whole mining thing, it took a month to implement this, right? It was through the Bitcoin Improvement Proposal, I think it's BIP 9, I think is what it's called. And that's where basically the miners vote on it, right? So not casting a vote like I was just talking about, but they vote on it by either upgrading to Ravencoin Core version 3.3 or higher, or not, right? So if they don't upgrade, if they stay on version 2, then they are saying, hey, I don't want to enable restricted assets, right? And so you had this situation where most likely there were farms in China that obviously are a little distracted right now with coronavirus and some other things. Plus, there's a firewall there, basically, so to speak, between information flow in and out of China. So if the majority, or if a large portion of hash rate is in China, and they need to upgrade their software to enable something that they don't possibly even care about, right? As far as the whole Ravencoin platform and what it's used for. All they're thinking of is, I can mine this coin and I can sell it every day. I can get $1 million a day, or however, 720,000 a day. If they, it wouldn't be that much, but I think that's how many you can earn each day. I don't know. I might have that number wrong, but it's a lot because it's 5,000 every minute. I think there's 5,000 Raven block rewards, and that's every 60 seconds. So if you do the math, you come up, I think it's 700 something thousand. Anyway, so if those entities over there, those mining farms, don't care, they don't know, they aren't aware that there's this upgrade and this voting going on, then that's probably why it took a whole month. Because everybody that supports Raven really supports Raven, especially the GPU miners, okay, the people who started this whole project with GPUs then and supported it all this time. We want Ravencoin to succeed. So we want those capabilities to be implemented. And in order for those capabilities to be implemented, we needed to upgrade to 3.3 or higher. They don't know and they don't care over there. So that's why I think that's probably played into why it took so long, a whole month basically, between the time it was going to be enabled and the time it was actually enabled, because there's some rules that are in there that I've done a video on it actually. There's rules in there that have to be adhered to in the whole voting thing, and there's percentages, and there were all these tracking tools and stuff like that online. Anyway, so eventually it finally passed, and now we have restricted assets and tags and all these other features. So anyway, all right, I know I just totally went off on a tangent there, but yeah, so let's look at, I think the last thing I asked was, are people already creating tags and restricted assets? And the answer would be yes. If it has a $sign, then that is a qualifier, and basically this is a restricted asset. And if it has a $sign in front of it, then that is a tag. Okay, and it is a little bit difficult to understand because it gets into some really financial details, of how things work on the security token offering platforms, with why you would have to have this in order to be compliant, right? But that's what I'm going to kind of try to explain. It's pretty tough though. Now, as far as just straight up assets and things like that, you can, I've done a video on a use case that I came up with for SavageMine, and being able to host rigs and then host GPUs and then distribute the rewards, if there were any. Like lately it's getting a little bit better, right? The rewards are getting better, but whenever I first did this, there were no rewards. It was basically losing every month. You can see this was 11 months ago that I created it. But I have the master, or the, what's that called? I think it's called the master asset. Main asset. Okay, so the main asset is SavageMine, and then I have a unique asset that is assigned to a specific GPU with this serial number, and whoever, like, let's say that now this GPU is actually mine, but if it were someone else's, then I could send this asset to them on the Ravencoin network, right? I could send it to them, and then whatever, I could do the math each month, or whatever we decide on each quarter, I could do the math and then distribute whatever that GPU has mined that month, minus expenses, electric and maintenance or whatever. So this was just a real quick little use case that I came up with for GPU hosting. So if you look at, now this is a little bit off of the whole restricted assets and tags. I'm kind of going into just basic assets on the Ravencoin network, but I wanted to kind of show you, what this is about, because a lot of people just mine Raven. They don't even know what it is, right? And I think that's a shame, because I think that you really should know more about what Ravencoin is trying to accomplish. So anyway, so this is just an asset explorer. You can find this on the Ravencoin page here, ravencoin.org, and then you go to community, and it's down here at the bottom. There's a couple of them. There's one by Real Boquito and one by Scotty. I think I'm on this one right here right now, and this one is a little different. This one, where's it at? I must have closed it. Nope, here it is. So this one is kind of basic. I mean, it's great, but it's just this one allows you to see based on transaction volume. I don't think the other one does. So it's kind of neat to see the transaction volume of the asset, how much is going on, how much is being transferred, how much is being used. I think that's kind of a cool way of looking at it. And then supply, you can sort by all this different stuff. So it's kind of neat. I like this one. But anyway, let me search for mine again, because I want to show you a little bit more so you can kind of get an idea of what this is all about. So if I click on the unique asset, this one GPU, you can see here that I've got an IPFS tag here. It's not a tag, but an address hash. And what that means is you can store data on the interplanetary file system associated with this particular asset. So this is the asset name, the unique asset name, and it's under SavageMine, which is the main asset. And then if you click on this, normally what you would put in there is like details about the asset so that you can identify the asset. And Bitsby Trippin did a really cool one on this too. His was way more in depth, but it was for the not a flamethrower from the Boring Company, right? Elon Musk and all that stuff. And he has a process for tagging those not a flamethrower and proving ownership and things like that. Now, obviously, you know, I've talked about this before too. You know, you can't, like Ravencoin, the platform can't force law officials or, you know, the government to honor this, right? It has to be that the officials honor this, not the other way around. So what I mean is, like, let's say that you have an asset on the Ravencoin network for the Boring, or let's go back to my example. So let's say that this GPU that I have an asset for, a unique asset for, gets stolen. And, you know, to prove ownership, you would have to have the law enforcement agree that what you're saying, because you own the token on the network, that you own the GPU. You follow what I'm saying? So you have to have that type of relationship in order for this to actually work. But anyway, yeah, so you can upload data, and I'm kind of hesitating to click on this because I want you to kind of understand exactly what this is for. So you can upload data to uniquely identify your device, right? Or whatever. It could be a document, it could be a picture, it could be whatever. I think Bitsby Trippin did with the not a flamethrower. I think he did a picture. You had to do you had to print something out and then put it next to the not a flamethrower and take a picture of it, and then that is what actually ended up in the IPFS hash, right? So anyway, so I'm going to click on this, and it's going to open up a picture. Now I took this and created this little PDF here 11 months ago, right? And I was just goofing around, you know, kind of preparing for the stream tonight, and I was like, I wonder if that thing's still out there. And sure enough, here it is. So super cool. This identifies the GPU. It's got the serial number. You know, it's got information up here. This was just, I did this really quick on a live stream one night whenever assets were first enabled on the Ravencoin network. I threw this together and I was like, this is going to be kind of cool. So I did this, and you can check that video out on my channel. It's probably in my Ravencoin playlist, most likely. But yeah, so it shows it in the rig. It shows it powered up, you know, just like that. That's just the way it is. I probably should have taken a picture of the whole rig, you know, and kind of like circled the one that is identified here. But nonetheless, kind of a cool little thing there. So that's kind of a little bit more about how the assets work. So I thought that was pretty cool. Let me check out the chat, see if you guys are over here chatting it up. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in, man. I appreciate it. I know I'm kind of yapping and just going off, but I do that sometimes. All right. So the Ravencoin developers have been super busy. We know this based on what's been going on with the network and everything. They've been hard at work to enable the restricted assets and tags. They've had to do this during the whole ASICs and FPGA and transition to a new algorithm, and then they're probably going to have to do that again soon, or else, you know, I can see GPU miners kind of doing a little revolting against Ravencoin, in my opinion. But hopefully it doesn't come to that, but I can see it happening. So that they had to work on all this restricted assets and tags during that whole debacle as well. So kudos to them for actually getting it done. I think that is, you know, that says a lot for Trine and those guys, you know, the developers. So super cool. But anyway, this enables the security token offerings to use the Ravencoin platform for issuance. An STO is a legal issuance of a securities on a blockchain, and you can think of them as a legally issued initial coin offering. Everybody remembers those from 2017, but an STO is actually a legally issued security, right, on a blockchain, and it's compliant with securities laws. In the U.S., this means specifically the Securities Act of 1933. There's a lot to it. You know, to be a security, you have to have KYC. You have to do that. Now, remember, this is not Ravencoin being KYC. Okay, that's not what this is saying. This is saying that if you create an STO on the Ravencoin platform that is yours, or your company's, or whatever, that is where this comes into play. There's nothing about Ravencoin that requires any KYC. There's no office, there's no centralization, nothing like that. So don't get it confused that this is talking about KYC and Ravencoin. It's really not. It's talking about what you're going to be able to create on the Ravencoin network. And according to the Ravencoin developers, there were basically, I think I skipped them here. There were basically 9 different major problems that needed to be solved in Ravencoin to be compliant when used as a securities platform. First and foremost, they needed, and this is straight from this post here. I'm going to go kind of fast because I know Brandon Coin's coming on in a couple minutes. So they needed restricted assets first. These are tokenized assets on the, get back up here, hang on. So these are tokenized assets on the Ravencoin block platform that follow rules set by the token issuer. I've done videos on, you know, the asset creation and all that stuff. So if you want to learn more about that, check those out. This is just open source technology and tools where the rules to follow are set by the issuer and enforced by this distributed code. Then those restricted assets needed to be able to use tags also. And tags are needed so that the movement of restricted assets can be restricted to only those addresses that are properly tagged. Tagging can be used for things like KYC, accreditation, affiliation, and limits on the number of addresses that can hold tokens. And something kind of cool is tags can be combined using and or not logic. And I mentioned earlier, like, are people creating those types of assets? And there were some in here, now there's not. Huh. Go to the next here. Now I don't see any. There were a couple in here earlier, and now I don't see them. Let's go back over here. So you can see right here, that's a tag. Authorized. See the little, I don't know if you can actually see that or not. Right there. So that is a tag. And then this right here is a qualifier, or a qualifier address or a restricted asset. Okay. So these are what issue the tags to a specific address. Now, I might mess up the terminology a little bit. I'm still learning this, so but I think that that's the way it works. All right, so let's get back to this. In addition to the restricted assets, and tags, you also need the KYC platform, and that's a trusted KYC and KYC, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering, and OFAC is Office of Foreign Assets Control. So that's like someone that would basically, if you were on like a terrorist watch list or something, that's where you would get that a tag for that. And that KYC entity needs to be so good and has such great policies that others can rely on the platform to satisfy their compliance obligation. So that is an important part of the securities token capability. And a company called Finclusive is actually working with Ravencoin. They've developed a service that will integrate with the Ravencoin platform to satisfy those KYC requirements. If an asset is a security, then the customer identity must be known. And so in Ravencoin, combining tags with a trusted KYC provider and allowing that provider to issue tags to addresses can satisfy this requirement. They'd use tags to indicate proper KYC documentation and applicable database entries exist. The tag can only be issued by approved qualifiers. Remember those $ assets. They are the only ones to have the private keys needed to assign the tag. So a security token can be issued in just a few minutes on the Ravencoin network from right within the desktop Qt wallet. I was going to actually cover that. I was going to actually go through a demo of it, but it looks like I'm going to have to wait, and we'll do that tomorrow night, I guess. That is going to end it here for me because we have to get over to Brandon Coin. Let me make sure that he's live here. And he is, or he's going to be soon. So let's head over there and do a Savage raid and all that stuff like we normally do. Let me check the chat, see what y'all are up to real quick. Hey, what's up, Nefarious? What's up, Shancoin, Techman, Serpent, Bitcoin Jake? What's up, Brandon Coin? Thanks for tuning in, man, for a minute. I don't have a donation link yet. Thanks for telling me I look worn out. I am. I'm super tired. But, you know, I wanted to get some content out there anyway. All right, so let's head over to Brandon Coin. I will see you guys over there. Stay savage, everybody. See you tomorrow night, same time and all that stuff.